That was interesting.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Drexel Free Thought Society weekly podcast. The Drexel Free Thought Society dedicates itself to creating a positive, happy, secular environment at Drexel University.
It's not very happy, though.
Hey, announcements are happening. We are, as previously mentioned, we are the only secular organization at Drexel University, and we're happy about that, I imagine. Every week we try to have some kind of discussion on some topic of some kind somewhere. Normally in the same room, but it really doesn't matter. Anywho, this week we're kind of bouncing off of last week, and we're going to talk about homeschooling. In a lot of different communities, particularly religious ones, homeschooling is rampant. And we are going to discuss whether or not it's a good idea, if it's damaging to children, if it's motivated by anything specific, and probably get grossly off topic at least 7 times. My name is David McDevitt, and I'm the president of this organization. And welcome. If you want to participate in the discussion at all, for the first hour, or I guess first 45 minutes, you can join us on our Spreaker account. Just search for Drexel Free Thought Radio. You can join the live chat, give your opinions. You can also email us at drexfreethought@gmail.com and give whatever comments you want. You can also go on our Facebook. You can post to our Twitter. You can post to our website. It's not difficult. We're really everywhere.
You can email us, too.
I already said email.
No, you didn't.
I said you can email us at drexfreethought@gmail.com.
Sorry.
You gotta pay more attention.
I was paying attention, but it just
Clearly
got
not.
really crazy, because it's just a whole string of things, and I don't think anyone else understood half of what you said either.
Alright, so our vicious insults at my presentation aside, after the first 45 minutes, we're going to take a brief 15-minute break, allowing us all to recoup and you guys to get frosty beverages, or whatever it is people that listen to the show do. Milkshakes. And then at 6 o'clock, we're going to reconvene here, and it'll be our chat portion, where our primary focus will be anyone who feels like calling in. You can call in via Skype, and just call Drexel Free Thought. All one word, capitals are negligible, but whatever. Alright, let's begin. Homeschooling.
We have to all introduce ourselves.
Fine. You know people show up for me.
Yeah, I don't. Anyway.
My name is Isabel. I'm the one who suggested this topic. Yeah, I think in general, almost all cases, homeschooling's a pretty bad idea. So, yeah.
My name's Aksa, and I don't think homeschooling is a bad idea necessarily. It might be a good thing sometimes, like, especially if the child isn't getting what they need in a regular environment, maybe homeschooling is a better option, but the education that they're receiving at home should be on par with what they should be receiving, or better than what they're receiving in a public school system.
My turn? Okay.
Talk really loudly.
My name is Richard, and I believe that homeschooling is okay at certain times, depending on if it's religious or not, which most of the time it is. Also, I think that our education system here in the U.S., our public schools and our private schools, for some cases, are extremely messed up in the first place. So I think it could be a good idea as long as it's not religious.
Can you move some of those chairs up? So you can come closer? Yes, my name is Dante Anton. I'm the Vice President of the Drexel Free Thought Society. And I will be honest, and I will apologize that even though I knew this topic was coming a week ahead of time, I didn't think too much about it.
No one did, it's fine.
Huh? Oh, okay.
And I just spit coconut all over everywhere.
But in my opinion, I think this will be a learning experience for me. However, I can make some reasonable assumptions on homeschooling because I've seen some instances of it. I think that depending on certain situations, and we can go over that eventually, or homeschooling may be detrimental to a child's learning and social life, and where it may be beneficial. Because I personally believe that everything that you do is a double-edged sword.
Can we jump into it now?
Oh, right. I'm that guy that was talking before, and I am currently eating a coconut.
Anyway.
Half of one. Homeschooling, it seems we're all kind of in general agreement, so just for the sake of me having fun.
I'm not in agreement with the religious part.
Okay, there we go. We have some controversy. Hooray. But I would kind of agree with Richard's assessment, and partially Dante's, that it really depends on the motivation behind the homeschooling. If there is a situation where the education in the community is so bad, and you are an accomplished teacher or educator of some kind, and you're like, I can teach my kid better than this, then it is entirely possible that they will be able to give a great educational experience with their child. But there is so much more that goes into going to school. Like, I'm one of those advocate people that I think everyone should go to college, even if they only stay for a year and then quit. And that's just because being in a social environment where you have to deal with both social, economic, bullying, every stupid little problem that happens when you go into public is extremely important, especially in children in their formative years.
I disagree with you on the college thing. I don't think everyone should go to college.
And I'll disagree with you, because I think college is an experience that parallels nothing else. Like, when you come to college, you are truly on your own. Well, not fully on your own, but, like, in my case, like, I do have my parents providing, like, financial support, but I'm living here, I'm doing everything on my own. I don't have anyone else telling me what to do.
I think that some people do not have the intellectual capacity to stay up to date with college. I'm sorry if that sounds really mean, but I mean, in all fairness, we do need people to be hairdressers. We do need people to be, welders. We do need people to be carpenters, and that's not really something that's covered in most colleges. So, I personally am a big fan of like VOTech schools, etc. Because if you're just like not intellectually capable of keeping up with the work in college, and some people are not, I'm not being mean here. I'm just stating a fact. Then, why would you waste, a year of your life? Why would you waste your, tuition money for a year to do something you already know you're not particularly good at when you could be excelling in some other area?
I would also like to add on to that statement.
Sure, go for it.
This is what I was going to say. How you're saying that some people do not have the intellectual capacity to join a college, I think in the terms of what you mean by intellectual capacity. What do you mean by intelligence? There's different types of intelligence. That's the one problem I have with public schools. Mm-hmm. Public schools teach you what to think, not how to think. Or is it the other way around? Because
how is the better one, apparently.
Yeah.
Well, so suppose you have someone that goes to public school. What are they learning? Science, math, history, as it is in the textbooks, and English. The only main focus that you have in primary education, at least in public schools in the United States, that teaches critical thinking skills are probably the two main liberal arts. And history is actually down by the wayside. You don't really have that much critical thinking because they teach history incorrectly in schools. They teach the dates instead of why it happened and stuff like that.
But it also depends.
When you're talking about English, you're talking about the capacity to actually understand what the author is writing down. Even if the author might have not meant it that way, it gives you a creative thinking skill of understanding the world in a different way. I remember when I was in elementary school, there was this one book that had an illustration of this man looking back, and he looked down, and he saw two hippopotamuses there, and he had a thought bubble, and it showed glasses in there with a question mark. The teacher asked, "What does this mean?" And I said, well, the hippopotamuses are actually representation of his two sisters, because he had sisters. So he's looking back to the hippopotamuses to see if they need any help. And then he's thinking about glasses because he's torn apart if he should do his own stuff or he should help his sisters. That sort of thing. is not usually taught within science and math.
Oh, yeah,
even though I
absolutely.
really love science and math, it's all about logical, strict, straightforward thinking, which math and science should not be. There should be a creativity in math and science. Therefore, we don't stagnate and we go forward.
The way you bring creativity to math and science is research. Which is why everyone should go to college and participate for at least 1 year in some sort of research.
Not all people want to do math and science, though.
Yeah.
But
There's a lot
not,
of
even if
people-
everyone doesn't, there's research in other areas. Humanities, there's research in that too.
Even though there's some people that are more interested in working with their hands. Let's say.
Yes, precisely. That's why I was kind of, like, maybe it was incorrect for me to say intellectual capacity, because, I mean,
You mean niche? Perhaps.
people, like, the way we measure intelligence in the public school, you know, is whether you're a good reader, whether you're a good writer, whether, you know, you
It's
can do math or
basically
whatever.
how much can you retain.
Yes.
Because that's all
Whereas-
it is. It's not real intelligence.
Right.
We're teaching people to remember and
Regurgitate.
just repeat and
Right,
regurgitate and everything else like that. That's why we have people coming out of
Right.
high school, coming out of college, totally demystified by the pursuit of learning.
Right.
And they want to sit on their ass and do whatever the hell they want
Right.
besides going by the sciences, by English, by history.
Because they don't know how to apply what they learn. What they learn is, oh, remember this, write it on an exam, instead of, oh, this is the basics, try to do something with it. Try to apply it to something.
Yeah.
And there's some people who are just not good at memorization, etc. Like, you know, but maybe they're really good at, like, decorating cakes or something. I could never do that. Like, I can't make these little perfect little flowers on cakes. You know,
Some
I
people
can't.
are really talented.
In other words, everybody has a niche in society.
yeah.
Yes,
They're-
yeah, and sometimes that, and a lot of times, actually, that niche is not at college. I've heard so many stories about people who go to college for a year and they drop out or whatever because they realize what they really want to do is bake.
I mean,
Or whatever.
Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, they all dropped out of college.
That's just like
successful.
that's just like when people say
Just
that.
go to Harvard and drop out within your sophomore.
That's just like when people say that everybody should go into the military at least a year or two. And you know, I thought about that and I said to myself, it's not for everybody because you know the thing is, if you were to go to college and you just didn't like it, it's going to kind of leave a bad taste in your mouth. And you know, all kinds of things can happen from there. Same thing with the military. If you go into the military, you really don't like it. I mean, you really don't like it. It's going to leave a bad taste in your mouth. It's going to leave you wondering, well, geez, you know, I knew I wasn't going to like this. You know, I kind of looked into college. I kind of looked into the military. I looked into this. And I already knew that this wasn't for me. I just wasted a year of my life that I could have spent doing, you know.
But you had a learning experience. I don't
yeah,
think
it is a learning
as long as
experience.
You had a learning experience.
That's fine. But some things you don't have to really experience to have an idea of whether you're going to like it or not.
Right.
There are a lot of things out there that there's a lot of things I could do right now, but I'm like really sure that I'm not going to like it. And that year or two or however long I spent doing that thing, I could have been learning more about taxonomy with beetles and reptiles and stuff. Or I could have been, you know, researching, you know, urban birds or something
Right.
instead of learning how to put apart, fix cars and everything, which that's something, I'm not a mechanical guy
Right.
whatsoever. And I know I'm not going to like, you know, working with all those tools and, you know, spark plugs and all the other nonsense and everything. So I'm not going to waste my time doing that. The thing is, what the problem is that what Richard was saying, and he put it so elegantly, is that, you know, how they teach the material in school, they don't really engage you in it. It's just this simple regurgitation. This is how you think, you know. No, this is what you should think. They're teaching a lot of that, and they're not being, like you guys were saying, really creative with it. So it's not getting the children and the teenagers really engaged to the point where they're going like, you know what, I kind of like this thing. Maybe I should go to college and delve more into it. And then college has to follow up.
The thing is, it depends on the school. It depends on the teachers.
Exactly.
Really, because I honestly did not like school up until, like, let's say middle school. Why did I start liking school in middle school? I had a really awesome science teacher. So she made it fun. Like, she didn't only help me in the classroom, she helped me outside the classroom. She was the advisor for the drama club and SAD, which is Students Against Destructive Decisions.
Right.
She was the advisor of that, and I was in both. So I interacted with her on a very personal level. I got to know her really well, and she made science fun. She made it engaging, and since she was able to do that, today I'm a biologist, and when I look at it, it's kind of because of her that I'm so interested in being in the sciences.
Right. And to add on to that, I think like a good teacher can make the biggest difference. I mean,
absolutely.
Going back to what you said, like in 7th grade, I had a teacher who was basically there for the coaching. And he literally every single day in science class, we watched a movie. Like almost every single day we watched a movie. We spent a month on microscopes. We spent a month on the metric system. Nice. Like it was just absolutely the most boring thing. He made it so boring, so dull. And then, in 8th grade, I had this really amazing teacher, and he did show videos occasionally, but it was always just to back up what he had already said, it was always, he used it appropriately, and, I don't know, he was really engaging, he made it really fun, I don't know, it makes the biggest difference, and, I remember that year I was thinking, I'm like, I don't know, but, maybe I'll end up going into science, and it turns out I didn't, but it makes the biggest difference. That's what I'm trying to say.
One thing, go ahead and finish because I got to segue back into it. But go ahead.
I was going to say, teachers like the two teachers you were talking about and this history teacher that I had back in the 9th grade, they are the catalyst for sparking interest in a specific area. And the reason why our public school system sucks is because we have these teachers that just want to get the kids through the classroom and everything else like that, which leads to mentality of, ugh, I don't want to learn, that's for school, I just want to go to work and get my money and get my stuff. When you have a teacher like that, it sparks an interest, it sparks a passion.
Right.
And that is what leads us into better things. I mean, I didn't even like biology or anything
I wasn't into
else
science
like that.
at all.
But Dr. Duran, a teacher here in school,
who I work with,
he
awesome.
gave me a passion for learning biology, not just evolution, but biology in the actual sense of the word. And I kept doing it. I loved it because he's such a great professor.
Now one thing we have to definitely take account is that we're talking about these public teachers, instilling this passion for learning. Now, do homeschool teachers have the capacity to do this? Also, I'll get to what I'm saying. We also have to consider the social aspects of being in public school and the social aspects, if any at all, in homeschooling. Go ahead, Dave.
Hello. I stepped out for a moment. But therein lies the problem, and it depends solely on the motivation of the teacher. Mm-hmm. I've heard of situations where parents effectively groom their child into being little Einsteins. They'll rapid fire instill information into their brains as fast and as intensely as possible because they want them to be as informed and educated as ever. Mm. Which I don't think that's the right way to do it.
Nope.
Because you do need kids to enjoy themselves, but at the same time, you can have the exact opposite, and the only reason you're homeschooling is for miseducation. Is to go
indoctrination.
It's worse than indoctrination. Indoctrination, you're filling your child's head with just wacky ideas. Miseducation is filling people with wacky ideas for the express purpose of making them not learn what's actually going on. Mm. And I think it's much more nefarious because I can't quite... This might just be an ignorance thing on my part, but I don't believe that everyone that performs such miseducation actually believes it themselves. They think oh, this is a way that I can make sure my child does not learn evolution or whatever.
Yeah, that's
and they're just we can't let them know evolution because it's evil. So if I teach them this, effectively if I lie to my child in this fashion, then they will not learn the reality of some scientific something.
And not even in a religious context. And sometimes just parents are just not very good at keeping, and I don't know, just my mom's a guidance counselor, and I remember she told me one time there was this kid he was transferring in, and his mom's like, oh yeah, he learned American history last year, and she said, oh, where did he learn it from? And it was like American history for dummies. You know, like you're not teaching, like that's not an effective way to.
No, she taught him from the book American History for Dummies.
Yeah.
It's like, to be fair, you'd probably get a bit more information from American History for Dummies than from our textbooks.
Another thing that
A lot of them are made in Texas.
Really?
Oh no,
You didn't
Yeah.
know that?
not that.
An
bad.
enormous number of textbooks are made in Texas.
another
The state needs to be-
They're removing people like Thomas Jefferson and Thomas Paine from history.
Yeah, that's what, I remember
What?
a couple years ago there was a big thing about this because so many people were so upset because they're basically rewriting history books because Texas is the biggest textbook market, in the country.
And what would you rather go for? The cheap textbooks that are affordable and you can get bulk of them, or the obscure, accurate textbooks from, I'm just going to like Rhode Island or some other state that's difficult to get books from? You'll go for the easy mainstream ones. Everyone does. And some of them are just outright insane.
Really?
I think there was one that says evolution is impossible because the Loch Ness Monster exists.
Please tell me.
You're laughing, but this is what's actually happening.
You okay, Dante?
Because that's supposed to
It's literally saying like gravity's impossible because the fairies hold us to the ground.
Oh my. That's
I thought that was in the book. So I'm
God.
like,
wow.
No, the Loch Ness Monster thing is in textbook.
That
that's
you have to
sad.
show.
All right. To be fair, and feel free to correct me, internet people, this is either in one of the biology textbooks brought out from Texas, or it's from Accelerated Christian Learning.
You're probably thinking of Accelerated Christian Learning.
Well, the problem is I'm really not sure. That's how crazy the textbooks
Oh,
are
what was
getting.
that test that's gone viral on the internet?
Oh, the
of-
fourth grade thing.
of the
Oh,
fourth grade.
yeah.
Oh my
Oh.
god.
I don't
I
know.
was cringing. I was
it's like
dying.
it's like I don't know the legitimacy of that test.
It is legitimate. There was like a post.
Seth.
Oh, that
Seth.
one.
And apparently it's from a
Guys,
public
guys,
school.
one person.
Sorry.
Well, you're the
From
one.
public school? I thought that was a Catholic school.
I thought it was a Catholic school too.
No, I mean, somebody, like, I remember somebody posted on their Facebook wall, and they're like, this is really sad.
No, it's.
And I remember I
Oh, I think
commented,
I
I remember I
Guys, one
commented,
person.
I remember I commented and I said, I'm like, is this from a public school? And they said, yes, it is. So I don't know whether that was true or not, but apparently I went to Snopes. And apparently the parent said, yeah, it's from a public school.
The thinking atheist looked it up.
And he said, I'm going to switch my kid
Okay.
next year.
Can I know where this public school is so I could never ever go anywhere near there?
I think South Carolina.
Okay, never go in there.
No, that's the problem. This is going to shift. We're a little over halfway. I wanted to shift this into how do we fix this? Like,
Okay, first of
Pe-
all,
people-
who's teaching these? Like, whoever's teaching these kids
no,
is doing it very
no.
badly.
Here's the issue, and I wish I did more research on this, and I'll try to during the break. But a huge problem is that the public school standards get changed. So it's not the teacher's fault anymore. They are required by law to teach this stuff to people.
It's the district.
So this is
Wait, but it's illegal to teach creationism in a high school setting.
just don't call it creationism.
Or
Oh.
Could design proposals.
No, we just had this court case a couple years ago
Intelligent
in Dover,
design.
PA,
It
around
does-
where I'm from.
And do you know what's fun thing?
Intelligent design.
No. Do you know what's the fun thing about laws? Criminals break them.
Could design proponents.
Especially big
Yeah, but
bang.
why is this parent not taking this? Like, why do public schools keep on challenging this?
Because of
No.
personal biases.
No. Okay. So here's one of the reasons, and this is like why when Catherine Stewart graciously graced us with her presence through the internet. Anyway, one thing that she brought up during her like longer talk was that, well, actually, I guess it's not even something I drew from it. It doesn't matter. It's really hard to have these lawsuits because the only way you're allowed to sue is if you have an active party that is actually being affected by the broken law. Which means if you're in South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, any of these places that are heavily dominated by religious groups, and the children are forced to be in those religious groups, you have to make your child take on the full brunt of the entire community.
Oh, that's
Unless you team up with a couple parents. Unless you can
No,
find a
it
couple...
it doesn't matter. The children are still the ones that are going to be affected by it.
Right.
And that's why, like, people like Jessica Alquist, and she's the only name that pops in my head, but there are dozens of these people now who are like, I am taking on this cause. I'm taking on the incredible backlash from my entire community. Like, for Jessica, I remember specifically a state senator called her an evil little thing.
Yeah. And now people wear that on t-shirts.
Yep.
I am an evil little thing.
No, but all she wanted was to get a prayer banner taken down from, like, the auditorium.
I know.
It would take, like, 10 minutes. But she receives death threats.
Couldn't this be a case for homeschooling to try to mitigate?
I see where that's coming from, but it's one of those things like, I'm just gonna make an analogy. If you like light some turkey on fire when you're cooking, do you try to put out the fire or let your house burn down and go get it? Let your house burn down and go get a new one.
You get a turkey. I mean, you eat a turkey.
No, that's
I say you smolder it because you have to smolder a grease fire and then you go, or not smolder, smother a grease fire and then go get a new turkey.
No, but that's what I'm saying is the public school system is broken. We can either quit using it or fix it.
But the thing is, in order to fix it, how would we even begin? If half of these people, like, in these states, they don't even want to try to fix
like
it.
One component at a time.
It's the most, if you want to have the biggest impact on your community, people say, like, oh, run for a political office, try to become the mayor, try to become the chief of police. What you need to do is be on the school board. The school board decides your educational standards. They decide which books you buy. That's why, like, the whole Dover case, I heard a lot of testimony from some of the parents that were like, what is going on? They were just like, at one day I walked in and I was legitimately scared. These people were seriously considering completely abolishing everything having to do with science and replacing it with religion. At that point, I quit the school board. What the person should have done is stayed on the school board and been like, I vote against this. This hand says no.
Can I give a little
Actually,
excerpt?
but not
you and then excerpt.
My science teacher, who was actually not very good in 7th grade, he was one of the parents who sued.
Good.
Yes, he was one of them.
So if you want to have the greatest impact on the community, join your local school board. Education decides the future.
Like PTA? Or
like the school board.
Okay.
Like, you have to actually run in, like, an election. PTA, by all means, your voice will be at least reasonably heard if you're on the PTA. If you run the PTA, it's even better.
Well, see, not all of us will have that much time in the future.
It depends on what your prerogative is. Not everyone can be a hero.
Sorry, David.
So I can give a little insight because there's actually some homeschooling in my family with my 2 little cousins.
Okay.
They're mostly taught online. They do have a teacher. I mean, like, my aunt, she'll teach them things, but they also have an online teacher that they go to. And they interact with other students. I don't know the whole system, but they interact with other students here and there, but mostly with the teacher. And they take their tests and exams and all those things online. But at the same time, whenever they need help, my aunt's there, their mom is there to help them out. But, after they're done their online school, they still go outside and, interact with other kids and everything. So while they're at home being schooled, by a teacher from outside and by their mother, they are also allowed to interact with kids, outside as well. Now, I've actually asked my aunt why did she prefer this method years ago. I unfortunately don't remember her exact reasonings. But for those of you who are listening and don't know much about Philadelphia, our school system, our school district is in shambles. When I say it's in shambles, I remember I went back to my high school after I got out the Army. I was out at high school for about 5 years, and they still had the same textbooks when I was in. And when I was in high school, Those textbooks were sitting around since the 80s.
Wow.
So there are old, decrepit, inaccurate textbooks still sitting around, not updated, just being regurgitated to our children. We have schools that haven't even fixed their air conditioning system, so now they're allowed to leave school when it gets too hot. Like a day like this, if it got a little bit hotter, right now it's about close to 70, 80 degrees. When it gets about 90, they're allowed to leave school. We didn't do that when we were younger. So that's just less education going on there. And we have crooked superintendents. Almost no one talks about the school situation here. We got schools closing down because there's low attendance now. So I don't know if it's because parents are not keeping an eye on their kids and the kids are just running around. There's no truancy officers floating around. Maybe homeschooling is becoming rampant. I'm not sure. But whatever the problem is, it seems that nobody, no school board, no parents, and I'll even post this stuff on Facebook and almost get no replies about it. None of these parents seem to get involved with what's going on with this school system. And that scares me to death. But God forbid, I put up the Eagles and everyone's right on there. So it seems like there's a lot of distractions, at least with Philadelphia. I'm not sure how it is in other cities. But with Philadelphia, there's a lot of distractions as far as sports and celebrities and TV shows. But you bring up school and they're just like, well, it's up to them.
You mean the United States. The entire United States.
Well, I can't.
Wait, stop a second. Alright, continue.
Okay.
Sorry, we lost connection for a few moments.
Is that the parents who do care about their kids' education end up sending them to parochial schools because they feel like there's no other better option. And I'm kind of against that because I think that's, childhood and parochial schools, religious schools.
Okay, thank you.
Oh.
Sorry.
There was actually mildly recently a huge push for state funding for vouchers. That it was a transparent ploy to help to continue to dismantle the public education system. Instead of investing more money into the public education, a lot of cities, including Philadelphia, I think, tried to pass voucher programs. So parents would have the choice of having state funding to send their kids to a private school of some kind. And I think it was like almost all of them were going to Catholic and Christian schools.
Does anyone find
but what made it hilarious was they got pissed when they tried using them to go to like an Islamic school. And I was just like, you stupid people. How did you not see that coming?
Does anyone find it kind of funny that our military budgets are put on no, not you, but like other people that are uneducated and otherwise cannot enter a private or public 4-year ccallege are being pushed into the military because that is a way to make a living, yet the military doesn't even make that much money after all, because they say that the military makes money, but they really don't make that much money.
But that was not the budget. The budget is huge.
Do you know how many bases we're maintaining in the world?
They're pushing
unnecessarily.
There's like a handful of countries we're not occupying.
Well, they're basically pushing all of these people into military, using them as fodder for an massively over expenditure of our military industrial complex, which is what, $16 trillion, and there's bases
this is my
all
favorite
over
thing
the
ever.
world.
My favorite description of the budget, our primary thing we're focusing on is the military. What was it? It was fantastic. We could cure world hunger for literally feed everyone in the world. For I forget what it is. It's like something like 18 billion or something. Like it's a big number, but it's 8 hours of our military budget.
Well, not only that. Think about the $250 billion The quadrillion-dollar market that we have in the NASDAQ and the Dow Jones within the United States, the derivatives market is $14 quadrillion. Now we have income tax. Now there's one thing that libertarians are correct about. We do not need income tax. You know why? We can tax the derivatives market by 2% and we can get everything. We don't need taxes, period. Just tax the derivatives market by 2%. You think that's actually going to, cause any?
I'm a biologist. I don't know what
anything?
he's talking about.
Derivative market is like the money you make off of long-term investment stocks. You get like a dividend at the end of the year,
get dividends,
or at different quarters during the year.
Yeah.
Well, think about how
But
much
if
money
you tax
that could
if
be.
you tax that income of privately owned companies, the stocks that people get money
got it.
from.
If you tax that by 1/10% and put it in our education system, and then 1% and put it into our agricultural system, or whatever, all this stuff that we need to
That's
get
my
going.
money you're talking about. What
That's
the
not
hell?
your money. That's
but-
everybody
that's what
else's
that's
money.
what
No, that's what
Everyone's
everyone
gonna
will say.
argue.
You weren't here for this. It's my pile of rocks will get smaller.
Well, even though there is one thing
My
that
gold
I
bars will shrink.
strongly disagree with
Why'd you grab your
libertarians
chest
about,
when you said that?
besides for
No, I
their
was-
Oh, you're hard.
besides for their understandable rage towards how the taxes are being used, because we say that it's being used for Social Security and welfare programs when it's not. Some people will go on the other end and say, "Oh, why should I have to pay for that for that guy? He should get a job." No, you should.
It's called
because
being
it's
human.
Being human.
They don't know much about that.
Money is not yours. That money is everybody's. And I'm not talking about buying a TV for them. I'm talking about buying basic fucking needs. Sorry. Basic needs. Like food.
It's like, on that
and
note,
water.
education.
And education.
No.
But is education
No, I
really
wouldn't-
a basic necessity?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm just making
Yes,
this
it
argument
is.
here.
Oh yeah. One
I'm
of
not saying it's not. I'm just making.
I understand, and thank you for bringing that up, Oxa, because you clearly thought of it out of the blue.
But again, I am a libertarian, and I do believe even if we did that, it would not be perfect because we have crazy people in Congress
No,
that will
of course.
say that it's going to be for this when it's really not. If I were a dictator, it would happen. But we all know that that's not true.
We all know that
So I'll
Richard
just
should.
become an oligarchy.
No, it's like we all know that Richard should not be the dictator.
Everybody
No,
knows
that's
that
what I'm
Richard
suggesting
should
an
be the
oligarchy,
dictator.
not a dictatorship.
Isn't an oligarchy just a scarier version of a dictator?
Yes. No,
It's-
it's a
it's-
bunch of people instead of one
It's a
person.
small number of people. Who can-
Right now, we're a
Whatever.
corporatocracy.
What?
Right now, we are a corporatocracy. That's why.
Yes, we are.
That's why I'm a libertarian, because the government is a corporation just like every other corporation.
Yes, but that's a different subject.
Homeschooling.
One thing, yes, homeschooling. I think
No,
one
we're
of the
talking about how is education a basic necessity.
yes,
Or why is it a basic necessity?
How do we fix it?
there are several things that everyone knows does everyone know Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't think it's completely accurate. I think there is definitely
Speak.
it's mostly accurate. But I think self-actualization should be the last one. Like, I don't remember every level, but it's the basic ones, obviously, are water. Need
Shelter,
water.
food.
Yeah, water, shelter,
Security.
food, security,
Emotional,
company.
social.
You need company. And then the highest one is self-actualization. You have to put education in there somewhere.
I think it's right behind self-actualization.
I think it's right before you get to self-actualization because without the education, I really don't think you can get up there.
What is self-actualization?
Why am I here?
What is my purpose?
The
What makes me
purpose is-
happy?
Deep
The
philosophical.
purpose is
It's a
basically-
lifelong-
No, that's the idea. Is
Whatever.
like after you have all of your basic needs, you can start going into now how do I actually enjoy myself?
That's where you get the emotional needs, like
Sounds like some works of Plato, actually. When you sum out the tales
It's
of life.
A lot of modern day in the last century or so psychological work
I
is
think we have
based
like
off
5
of.
minutes.
Oh yeah, we have like 5, 6. Anywho, education needs to be put in there somewhere, and that's just because if you don't have
I believe it's like right before psychology.
Actually, I disagree Because I think in order to maintain a healthy relationship with not just like a significant other, but within a society, you need to have a certain educational level in order to be to communicate.
It's like I think the ability to find clean drinking water needs education.
Exactly. So
No,
you
but
can argue that it can
I
be
think
in different locations.
Education is very broad. It could be as simple as I shouldn't touch that because it'll hurt me, or it could be just as complex as
I think it's
I'm thinking more of second.
like understanding how the world works.
Okay,
Yeah.
with
Like
understanding
I want to live in a country that's loosely like Germany. I think is the country that does that. Is college is free.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
know.
You know,
I
only
know.
to certain people, though. You have to make sure that you do good and excel. And
There's a
public
certain.
school.
Okay.
Okay, so we had a foreign exchange student live with us when I was in 6th grade, and I still keep in touch with her, and she's from Germany. And
What a happy coincidence.
yeah. So I actually do know about this.
Extremely happy.
How it works is when you're, I think like around middle school age, they basically kind of like sort you or whatever like into basically 3 categories. Like you have like your college bound kids. You have like kind of middle of the road like secretary, clerk, etc. And then you have like kind of like the bottom or whatever, like you're going to do farm work or whatever.
Yeah, I don't
and
care.
then and well, I'm just saying this is how it works. And they send you off to 3 different high schools or whatever based on your level of ability. And then if you're in that top high school, you're geared towards going to college, and you go. You can and if you get into college, it's totally free.
Yeah, I don't care for that system anymore.
If I were in
Anyway.
Germany, I'd probably
no,
not be in
speak.
college. Because I
do
not have that.
No, deciding your entire academic future when you're in middle school. Do you know what I was doing in middle school?
Trying to beat up all the
Burning
guys.
stuff.
I'm probably burning stuff, but not
And
being,
burning stuff.
No, but I mean like, what about like autistic kids or people with other social disorders? They'll seem like the most stupidest people in the world in middle school. Absolutely no offense, Richard.
I'm stupid.
You know what I mean. It's in middle school. It's when your brain is. It's when you're going through puberty. So you're like,
You're totally fucked up.
yeah, it's like and especially if
My
you
bad.
especially if you have like social disorders that start really emerging, and you're just like, I'm going to go hide in the corner now, even though I'm bloody brilliant beyond all comprehension.
Yay for autism.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure whether it's the right thing or not. I've got mixed feelings.
It's
about
like
it, but-
I'm game for free college for everybody. We could do that.
But that's my money.
Nope, this country's all about business, and people want to make money off of it, so they're not going to give you it.
It doesn't make any sense.
If they made college free, people would be crying socialism.
And I'll just be like, yeah, it is. Now shut the hell up and go to college.
Wait, but here's the point. Even if you make... let's say that college is exactly the way it is now. What do people usually go to college for?
Have sex and drink.
Besides
Oh
that,
dear.
they usually go to college to
Marijuana.
get a job.
What? What is that?
They usually go to college to get a job, but because
Career.
Well, in our modern day, no, they don't. They go to college because it's supposed to.
well,
Because it's for
no, but
It's like, do you know how many people graduate from college and just
Yeah,
like,
but-
now what do I do?
But the thing is that
You go to grad
a
school.
bachelor's degree is no longer worth as much as it was way back when.
All you're getting
5
is
years ago.
no. I'll flat out. This is part of the reason why our education system is terrible in this country. Is those are extremely expensive pieces of paper.
Because everybody wants them.
No, like
everybody wants to get a
I'm-
bachelor's degree.
No,
Therefore,
dude.
all the people, hey,
No,
you
it's
have
not
to have
even
a
that.
bachelor's degree to work in McDonald's.
you don't.
Yes, you do.
You really don't.
You do.
You can't. No, this goes on the. I know what you're talking about,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's kind of the people. I know, people's. Oh, man, we have no time left. I'm going to talk really fast. There's a difference between trying to strive for a job and the kind of and just going to college for the sheer sole purpose of getting a shiny piece of paper.
I'm not trying to get a shiny.
No,
penny.
an expensive piece of paper, also known as a diploma, doesn't get you anything. One of the reasons I recommend people always go to college is the connections you make with people. To toot my own horn for exactly 4 seconds. Oh, shut up. Stop counting. I'm halfway through my bachelor's degree because I'm terrible at college, and I'm doing the equivalent of several people's graduate work.
22
And that's
seconds.
because of the people that I met, and the information that I learned. Everyone can do this,
15
and we'll
seconds.
move on after the break. We have 15 seconds left. Please call us if you have if you have anything you'd like to say. And as a final note, when all the rivers dry up and all the forests burn, hopefully we'll learn that we can't eat money.
Biscuit.